All right, welcome back, everyone. We are reporting live on the ground today for a brand new explainer. We've literally got our hard hats on, clipboards in hand, and we're going to decode exactly how a country calculates its total physical output.
Exactly. We are out in the field today to tackle the exact title of this discussion, output method or product method. We're basically going to figure out how a nation measures its sheer physical volume of stuff without completely making a total mess of the data.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To really grasp the output method, which, by the way, is also famously called the inventory method, you have to imagine the entire economy is one giant bustling warehouse holding absolutely all of the country's physical production. Yeah, picture it with us. Warehouse doors flying open, forklifts zooming around everywhere, carrying every single good and service produced within the country's borders over the course of a whole year. The entire goal of this method is to physically take inventory. We're approaching national income purely from the output side. But there's a huge catch here, and we'll get to it in a second, which is avoiding double counting.
I mean, just look at the sheer size of this hypothetical massive warehouse we're standing in. It's like a giant puzzle divided into all these different hyperactive sectors.
Right. Over in that corner, you've got agriculture with the farmers. Right next to it, the mining sector, pulling resources straight out of the earth. And down the hall, manufacturing, small enterprises, commerce, transport, communication, the whole shebang is here. To use the output method, we literally just need to value all the final goods and services produced across all these sectors. Sounds simple enough, right? Just add up the value of everything in the warehouse.
Well, hold on a second. We've suddenly stumbled into a major conflict on the warehouse floor here. If we just run around with our clipboards haphazardly tallying up everything we see, how do we avoid counting the exact same item twice? Oh man, this is the statistician's ultimate nightmare. We officially call it the double counting trap. When you're dealing with millions of products that go through multiple stages of production, it is so incredibly easy to accidentally log the exact same material multiple times as it transforms from a raw material into a finished good.
Let's show you exactly how this panicky mistake happens in real time. We're tracking the production of a shirt. Okay, look over at step 1. I see some raw cotton on the floor. I'm writing that down on my clipboard. Awesome! Oh, and over at step 2, they just spun that cotton into yarn. Let me just quickly tally up the value of that yarn. Perfect! And at step 3, the yarn is now woven into cloth, adding the cloth to our national income tally. And finally, at step 4, it's a fully finished shirt. Let's count the shirt. Wait, hold on a minute. Did we just count the exact same physical piece of cotton 4 separate times?
We absolutely did. Look at the total mess we just made with these numbers. We counted the value of the raw cotton at 150 rupees, then we added the yarn at 250 rupees, then we added the cloth at 400.
Yeah, if we keep indiscriminately adding up every single intermediate stage of production like this, we are wildly hyperinflating the country's income. We're making the economy look artificially massive and just completely inaccurate. This is multiple counting in action, and it totally ruins the integrity of our national data. We desperately need a way to clean this up.
Thankfully, to fix this massive accounting error, the textbook gives us 2 official statistical solutions to save our data.
Whew. Okay, we are going to wipe our clipboards completely clean and start over using these 2 alternative approaches for the measurement of GNP. The first is called the final product approach, and the second is the value-added approach. Let's break down how each one beautifully sidesteps that dreaded double counting trap.
So, the crucial point is, under the final product approach, we completely ignore all of those intermediate transactions. We don't look at the raw cotton. We ignore the yarn. We skip the cloth entirely.
Exactly. Those intermediate goods are just involved in the process of producing final goods, right? Their values are basically paid up during the production process itself. So to avoid double counting, this approach says we only look at the goods that are 100% ready for final consumption by the ultimate consumer.
Which means we literally just walk right past the cotton and the yarn, and we only look at the final retail price tag of the shirt hanging on the shop rack. And there it is, 500 rupees. That final price tag already perfectly includes the cost of the cotton and the making of the yarn and the cloth. The values of all those intermediate goods are basically baked right into that final 500 rupees. We log that single final number and boom, we are instantly saved from the double counting trap.
Let's move to the second method and see how this builds, the value-added approach. Now this one requires a bit more on-the-ground detective work.
Yeah, instead of just waiting at the very end of the line, we follow the item through every single stage. Let's pivot from our cotton example for just a second. Imagine tracking a piece of timber moving from a forest logger to a sawmill and then finally to a carpenter making a table. We only count the distinct net value added at each specific stage of that journey. We are constantly looking for the exact difference between the value of the output and the value of the inputs.
Now, what's really interesting about this math is it breaks down perfectly no matter the material. Let's apply that timber logic directly to the numbers here. Say a logger cuts timber worth 150 rupees, with zero input cost from anywhere else. That's 150 rupees of pure value added.
Right, and then the sawmill buys that exact timber for 150 rupees. They mill it into planks valued at 250 rupees. We do the math. 250 output minus the 150 input equals exactly 100 rupees of true distinct value added by the sawmill. The exact same subtraction happens whether you're dealing with wood or the cotton and yarn process.
Exactly. We just keep bouncing down the production line doing this exact subtraction. For our table, the carpenter takes those 250 rupees of planks and crafts a beautiful table worth 400 rupees. They just added 150 rupees of brand new value.
And finally, a retailer buys it for 400, polishes it up, and sells it for a final price of 500 rupees. They added 100 rupees. By doing it this way, whether it's shirts or tables, we only capture the specific new economic activity happening at that exact stage, rather than blindly adding the whole cumulative price tag every single time.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute magic of national income accounting. Whether you are tracking a cotton shirt or a wooden table, if you use the final product approach, you just look at the final retail price tag of 500 rupees. But if you use the value-added approach and systematically sum up all those newly added distinct values along the way, it also equals exactly 500 rupees. The final math aligns perfectly without a single drop of double counting. How cool is that?
Before we completely clock out of the warehouse today, we need to run through a few vital precautions our statisticians take to keep this data squeaky clean. First off, you must completely ignore the sale of secondhand goods, like an old car or a used house. Why? Because they're not part of the current year's production. They were already counted back in the year they were originally made. For sure. You also have to deduct the depreciation of capital assets, the general wear and tear on the machinery. You've got to add the value of exports and deduct the value of imports. Also, there's a really fascinating note about self-consumption. If a farmer grows food and just eats it themselves, an estimated imputed value of that food actually has to be included in the national income. And finally, you absolutely have to adjust for price level changes so inflation doesn't trick you into thinking output magically increased when really only the prices did.
It's an incredibly detailed, massive system. But as we sign off from the warehouse floor, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought. We know exactly how to measure the sheer volume of this physical output now, but does steadily increasing our gross national product always mean we are actually improving our quality of life?
It's a really critical point. This traditional output method doesn't take into account the cost of environmental pollution from all those factories or the rapid depletion of natural resources. Mere increases in GNP might not reflect true economic welfare at all if we're just leaving fewer resources for future generations. It makes you realize why modern economists are starting to heavily look at concepts like green GNP, which actively subtracts the costs of environmental degradation. But hey, that is an explainer for another day. Thanks so much for joining us on The Ground.